If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
The deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's actually a 29-year-old gentleman that's from El Salvador. It looks like he came into the United States illegally in 2011 at the age of 16 is what it's saying. So, you know, I'm seeing a lot of people on the Democratic side fighting for this gentleman, right? It seems like, okay, they found a cause that they can get behind, and they're trying to convince the American public, hey, this is something that we need to fight the Trump administration back on. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, okay, why this particular gentleman and why this particular situation? I asked a couple of AI platforms, you know, and I looked at Google. Okay. Does Abrego Garcia have deportation orders? And it says, yes, Abrego Garcia is subject to final order of removal issued on October 10th, 2019, which technically makes him deportable. But the issue that they're having is the 2019 withholding of removal status explicitly barred deportation to El Salvador. But he is a citizen of El Salvador. This is where this gentleman was born. But they're saying that, okay, we will deport you. So that part is perfectly clear. The part that they are fighting on, the Democrats are fighting on, is, well, he was deported to the wrong country, which so happens to be the country this man is a citizen of and was born in. But a judge in 2019 says, well, he could be deported, but not to El Salvador. Well, now this gentleman is in El Salvador. So the case that the Trump administration is making is, well, he's there now. There's nothing we can do. We have to talk to the president of El Salvador. We have to talk to that country, and it is up to that country to release this gentleman. And the Democrats keep going down there and visiting. Now you have several Democrats have gone down there to visit. Only, I think the first gentleman was the only one allowed to see him, and the subsequent Democratic politicians that went down were not allowed to see him. But I have an interesting take here from Tim Walz's daughter. She says a lot of interesting things, but I think her take on this situation is very, very interesting, considering who she is comparing this gentleman to. Let's take a look.
If Jesus were alive today and in the United States, this administration would have already taken him and removed him from this country without due process.
What?
Claimed he was a member of the MS-13 gang as a way to try to justify not giving him due process, as if there is any justifiable reason to not giving somebody due process. But yeah, some people don't want to talk about that. It truly is baffling how clear and laid out everything is, and there is still people standing by it. I believe in the good of people and like humanity, humans, you know, deep down at our core, like we care about each other. But that's really being tested, because how anyone is okay with this is terrifying to me. But yeah, if you look like me, speak up, speak out, because we might be the only ones safe from what's coming and some of the only people that are able to stop it. So, yeah, it's our duty at this point.
I think it's ridiculous. This is just political. So all this is something that they're like, okay, we could probably get some traction here. We've got some traction here. This story has legs. Let's go ahead and run with this story and try to tug on the heartstrings of American citizens. Okay, I'm an American citizen, okay? I have family members and friends that are like families, that are like my family, that are citizens of this country, but they were not citizens of this country, but they did it the right way. And it took many years. Don't get me wrong. It took many years. But finally, they became citizens of this country. A woman who is like our sister, her husband was deported. He was deported. He had been in this country for many years, had been a manager of many locations, kids here in the United States, got deported. It actually took 9 months in order for him to get back into the United States and do the paperwork the correct way. I'm not going to lie, it was a lot of work. However, now he's fine. Now he's fine. And on top of that, this was during, wait for it, President Obama's administration. This was way before President Trump that this happened. They called Barack Obama the Deporter-in-Chief. It didn't seem like the Democrats had a problem with it back then. There's plenty of Democrats who've actually talked about securing our borders and getting people out of this country that are here illegally. This has been pushed by Obama. This has been pushed by Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Pelosi, all of these people. Now it is a huge problem only because it's President Trump. Not because they're against securing the border, not because they're against getting rid of MS-13 gang members. They'll say that, but it's not the truth. They're disingenuous. So let's continue. Let's take a look.
The top priority for Democrats right now doesn't seem to be fighting violent crime or helping students succeed or getting our homeless veterans off the streets. It appears to be catching flights to El Salvador to meet with an illegal alien who I guess they think is the photo op of the century. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen was the first Democrat to make that journey. He sat down with the man that the White House has accused of being MS-13. A group of House Democrats followed then in Van Hollen's footsteps.
If there's not due process for Kilmar, there will be no due process for anyone. We want to make sure that Kilmar is still alive.
This is not just a threat to all people in the United States who could be illegally abducted, detained, and transported internationally against their will. This is what we all have been calling a constitutional crisis.
We're here to raise awareness that Kilmar needs to come home. We need to build support here in El Salvador, but also in the United States. He must come home.
Where is...
You know, this is all politics. This is all political. This is all political. They found something that they feel has legs, and they're going to run with it. And they keep pushing and pushing this whole situation with Kilmar. The gentleman already had deportation orders on him already. So this is what they're pushing right now. So if they were to be successful and convince El Salvador, hey, give him back to us, we're going to bring him to America, he's just going to get deported again, just to another country. This is absolutely insane that they're fighting this hard and probably spending, just with travel and their salaries and whatever, they're probably spending a lot of money on this situation that I can guarantee that most Americans are okay with. They're okay with someone from El Salvador that have deportation orders on them being deported back to El Salvador.
Is the constitutional crisis actually written down on a Post-it note for Democrats to say over and over about a ton of different issues? Anyway, Florida Congressman Maxwell Frost was among those Democrats who flew to El Salvador, and he spoke to Will Cain.
Ridiculous.
You were there for an El Salvadorian man who was a resident illegally of Maryland. You're a congressman from Florida. Why are you in El Salvador?
Every person in our country deserves due process. And we want to make sure that we draw the line here at Kilmar Garcia, because it's not just about him.
He's an illegal alien. He's an illegal alien. Who's from El Salvador? Molly.
This right here helps with their headlines, okay? Because if you want to talk about due process, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of American citizens in this country that didn't get due process. There's plenty of Americans, I'm sure, that's incarcerated and shouldn't be. They probably have been convicted of a crime that they didn't commit. I don't see these people fighting for these people. But you want to go and fight for this guy strictly because it's headlines. It grabs people's attention. The border and border security and illegal immigrants is a very, very hot topic right now. This right here is getting you headlines. That's all this is about. Politics, politicking.
I just cannot believe how blessed the Republican Party and Donald Trump are in who their political opponents are. We just had a massive election where we talked about immigration and the illegal immigration that brought in more than 10 million people illegally under Joe Biden. It was a shellacking for the Democrat Party. And then they're choosing not to care about any of the many issues affecting American citizens. Right. And instead, they're going to El Salvador to help someone who two countries view as a terrorist.
Make sense.
It's just a horrible message to voters.
By the way, it has already soaked up a lot of taxpayer dollars in and out of our courts. And 2 courts found that there was reason to believe that he is a member of MS-13, and he was on a final deport list anyway. So even if they bring him here, they have to kick him out anyway.
Right. As much as it's a blessing politically for Republicans, though, it's a curse for their constituents. I was going through a few of those congressional districts earlier today, and you look at the unemployment rates, the educational levels, the lack of upward mobility. We saw this, to your point, in the election. People in Chicago, they were having these town halls like, I've been living in Chicago in the housing projects for the 5th generation, and you've got these buses of people handing them credit cards and handing them luxury hotels. And when the hell did this happen? Someone here is illegal. They broke a law, and there's a lot of evidence he's part of a dangerous gang. Why is this soaking up so much of your interest when we are actually out here struggling to make ends meet and to have hope for our own children? I can't believe, they've taken for granted they're always going to be elected. And I guess in certain areas they will, for whatever reason, but their constituents are suffering big time, and this is an atrocity.
I agree with Charles, man. They believe that they'll just be reelected no matter what. Ladies and gentlemen, and specifically Democrats, the constituents of these people. Do you agree with what your elected official is doing? Because I don't agree with them. And if you don't agree with them, I think that you should vote them out. I really do. Because what happens is these people, like Charles just said, they just think that they're just going to be reelected, going to be voted back in, no problems, I don't have to worry, I can do whatever I want. No, these people need to be removed because they're standing in the way. They're standing in the way, and they're wasting tax. They're wasting American tax dollars. But I'm not surprised because take a look at all the things that DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, has found. These people have no problem utilizing our money for whatever it is they want to do, whether it's legal or illegal, or it makes absolutely no sense. This is what you're fighting for. Most Americans don't care about this. We care about securing the borders and getting people out of this country that are here illegally. No one's saying don't come to this country, just do it the legal way.
An outright atrocity.
That line about taking for granted what they, what they do with all their constituents, like, oh, just vote for me anyway.
I just feel like some of the Democrats are trying to figure out how to keep their party alive. They got the memo.
Facts.
It's a constitutional crisis. So now they're all using the same lingo, no matter where they go. And it's funny, the Congress people that went down to talk to this alleged MS-13 gang member.
He is confirmed illegal alien.
Well,
that much we know.
Okay. They have not basically asked him whether he was a member, right? Yes. The senator went down there and did not ask if he was a member of the gang. I mean, so where are we going with this? And some of their constituents very, very upset that they're there. They're saying there's so many problems in their own neighborhood. Why are they going there and not taking care of the homeless, the veterans who are living on the streets?
Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, by the way. So that is the home state of Rachel Marin, who was killed by an illegal alien. Haven't heard him even mention her name in this conversation.
And never met with the family at all.
I mean, nobody went to El Salvador. He said he didn't ask this guy whether or not he was actually in the gang, as two courts have found evidence.
And by the way, that was from the legacy media asked that question. They even were curious.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It wasn't Fox News who asked. It was the legacy media.
Yeah. You know, to Molly's point, Americans were demanding border security in this 2024 election. And It seems like very interesting timing that Democrats right now are continuing to do this media blitz. And, you know, as we pointed out, constitutional crisis, that is a term that each one of these representatives that went down has said. So obviously these are talking points. Obviously this is for media. And obviously it is, again, Democrats are very out of touch of what Americans, their constituents, actually want. Here's my question, and this case offers the Democrats a chance to attack the Trump immigration policy and the way that he's doing things, because, well, they did come out and they said that there was an error, that he wasn't supposed to be deported, but now that he's there, it's up to the El Salvadorian. My concern is, real quick, Molly, and then I know you want to jump in, but my concern is that this gives some fuel to the Democrats as they're yelling about due process. And so for President Trump, what he needs to demonstrate is it's not a power grab and that he will follow the judicial process, because he got a lot of centrist voters in this last election. And if he wants to maintain that support, he has to make sure that he's following the judicial process.
To correct her, the gentleman was not supposed to be deported to El Salvador specifically. That's all. There was an order to deport him in 2019, okay? That still stands. It was specifically said El Salvador, he should not be sent back to El Salvador, which he was born. It was the country he was born in. He's a citizen of El Salvador. For whatever reason, do not deport him there. And I'm sure it has everything to do with probably MS-13.
We'll just say this, and maybe you can back me up on this. What was decided wasn't that he should not be deported. He shouldn't have gone to El Salvador. Because he made the argument in court that if he went there, his rival gangs would kill him.
Which then begs the point, how can you say he's not a part of the gang?
No, that's exactly right. He was actually supposed to be deported. After he goes through the whole deportation proceedings, then he comes up with a claim that many years prior, some member of his family might have been targeted by some gang. It was a very last-ditch attempt to stay in this country. But that was a mistake, that he should have been sent to a different country, I guess, than El Salvador.
And by the way, he didn't claim asylum or anything else until after he was picked up by ICE, and that's something that people have to remember as well.
He was hiding in plain sight.
He was just here illegally. He had already been, law enforcement had picked him up a couple times. He had the domestic violence complaint from his then girlfriend or wife. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's the greatest guy, and I'm not sure Democrats really want this to be their poster child of who they're there to support.
And the constitutional crisis is that you can come into this country illegally, and there's nothing any American can do about it. Even if it's tens of millions of people, there's no due process affiliated with illegal entrance into the country or illegal residency here. But then once you try to do something about it, when the American people say, we desperately want something done about this, then all of a sudden there's any barrier can be erected, courts can intervene, and you can't have the will of the people mean anything. That's the crisis.
Can I ask you a follow, Molly? Because I know you've been working a lot on this issue. Why is it that former President Obama could literally kick out millions of criminals who were here illegally?
Yes.
And not have an injunction against him. And Trump has dozens against him, and he's kicked out, 100,000?
Right. It does seem that there are things that any president can do that when Donald Trump does it, all of a sudden you have massive judicial interventions. There is a large, coordinated, well-funded campaign to make it so that whatever President Trump does, there will be legal barriers erected. And it really is a problem, because the courts have a legitimacy mostly because people just choose to respect them. The more that they violate our constitutional order by saying that they get to decide what the executive branch does and that the American people have no say, you're going to have people not respect the courts as much. And that's why there's a lot of pressure on Chief Justice John Roberts to get things in order.
Well, they call it Trump derangement syndrome for a reason. I mean, it's real.
Yeah. Well, now it's got, a super PAC? You didn't say that, but I'm sure there's money involved. All right, we'll move on.
A lot of facts, man. The Deporter-in-Chief, Barack Obama, that's what he's known for. No problems, no problem at all. As soon as President Donald Trump is doing something about this problem that we're having here, all the problems in the world, they want to stall them. This is just a stall tactic because they know the judicial system in this country is a joke. And President Trump and his administration is actually doing something for America, America first. Once again, there was no problem when Barack Obama was doing this. There was no problem when Hillary Clinton was talking about this, or Bill Clinton, or the other Democrats. But as soon as President Trump wants to do something about this, you guys all have a problem. This gentleman didn't want to go back to El Salvador because of what? What did they say? Potentially, he would have a problem with a rival gang, or, you know, something worse that might happen to him. Maybe he gets unalived. I don't know. But these people that are going down here, right? They're not one of the regular schmegglers like the rest of us. They've never lived in a gang-infested community. They never been involved in gangs. They never were gang members. They've done none of these things, man. So let me tell you something. Gangs in communities. Now, I didn't always think this way. Now, I was a young man at one time. I think this way now. I'm a father. I'm someone that wants peace. I want people to be able to live their lives in their communities, man. Gangs, they might as well be domestic terrorists, man. They might as well be, because they have no respect for the elders. They have no respect for parents. They have no respect for each other. They have no respect for the kids that's coming up. A lot of gangs use young kids to do their bidding, and it's ridiculous, man. And then you have what people are saying is the most violent and dangerous gang on the planet, the MS-13 people. We want to show these people compassion. We want to show these people understanding. No, we want you removed.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. And you have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Even as we are a nation of immigrants, we're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%. And that's why we're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security.